Hello there. Very good evening and welcome to Let's Talk Politics. I'm your host, Eddie Lane. And of course, as we always say, this program is really dedicated to highlighting the progress and development taking place under the People's Progressive Party Civic Administration, the administration led by Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali, just over 1 year in office and has been doing tremendous work across this country to improve the lives of our citizens, of every single Guyanese. Also, we use the opportunity time and again to respond to the lies and misinformation that are emanating from the opposition camp, a desperate bunch in the APNU AFC who have, done nothing for the people of Guyana, but are now seeing the kind of development and progress taking place. And I think it's getting to them. So they have resorted to their usual campaign of lies, misinformation, and racism. I'm expected to be joined in just a bit by Sanjeev Dattadin. Sanjeev, of course, is a member of parliament of the People's Progressive Party Civic Administration. And of course, he is an attorney at law by profession. So as we go along, Sanjeev is going to join me in just a bit. But there are a couple of things we want to talk about tonight. And what is happening in Guyana. As many of you are aware, we've just wrapped up a visit by His Excellency Chandrake Prasad Santokhi, the president of the Republic of Suriname, who spent about 4 days in Guyana, meeting with officials, meeting with His Excellency, the private sector, and a number of key initiatives to improve Guyana came out of, to improve both Guyana and Suriname came out of those discussions, including partnership where the two countries are going to work together to more or less promote agriculture and their agricultural produce and to top markets in CARICOM and European and Europe. They've also advanced discussions on bridging the Quarantine River so that there is access in terms of road and bridge network leading or can take you to Suriname and from Suriname to Guyana. There were also lots of discussions on the areas of health, on the areas of tourism, and a number of key initiatives came out of those discussions. That visit, 4 days in Guyana by the Surinamese president and his delegation, a lot of private sector to private sector kind of networking and so forth. But outside of that visit, which has bore tremendous fruit for the Guyanese people and for Guyana and for Suriname, as we forged that partnership, that unity between the two nations. There are quite a number of other things that have been taking place. Like I said, we've just been in office for about a year and a year and a couple of weeks. And based on what you've seen so far, tremendous progress taking place. I'm seeing streets and roads being done all across this country. So many things happening. And we spoke on previous programs about those initiatives implemented by His Excellency to really cushion the effect of the rising cost of living as a result of international factors, including the COVID-19 pandemic. So as a government, the PPP has recognized that there has been an increase in cost of living to some extent and has, like every other country is doing, attributed that to the prevailing conditions. We have a pandemic, shipping of items and so on. There are difficulties in getting those done. We have a situation where the movement of people by itself, economies are closing down. We recently saw a story coming out of China where an entire port, a critical port, was closed as a result of a person or persons being tested positive for the COVID-19. So in recognition of all the international factors that are contributing to the state of economies around the world, as a government, the PPP has been and continue to ensure that measures are implemented to really cushion the effect. Only recently, His Excellency announced, like I said, the 25,000 one-off grant for pensioners, another 25,000 one-off grant for those receiving public assistance. And I'm talking here about significant amount of money is going back into the hands of the vulnerable people of this country, the vulnerable population, who in turn will inject that into the economy as a little bit of a stimulus. We're talking about the below 75 kilowatt per hour per month, those persons getting an equivalent a 1 month equivalence of free electricity. So you're talking here about $3.2 billion being injected into the economy indirectly, because it's going into the hands of people, of the citizens of this country. And note that the citizens who will benefit from this are all the citizens of Guyana who are qualified in terms of your old age pensioner, regardless of who you voted for, regardless of where you live, regardless of your ethnicity, you will benefit. Those who are receiving public assistance, the same thing, you will benefit. For those who are burning or utilizing below 75 kilowatt or below electricity, you will benefit. And these measures are accompanying now previous measures that were put in place. You had the 25,000 cash grant that was implemented for COVID-19. You had the reduction or the injection to cushion the cost of shipping or importation of containers that are skyrocketing. And as a result of that increase in the cost of importing containers, you're finding a lot of items on the market are increasing. So the government would have forego more than $4 billion just to bring down the cost of shipping and importing containers into the country, in order to ensure that prices are reduced to the benefit of the population. You have, beginning pretty soon, and I'll speak about that a little later in the program, the rollout of the subsidy for those affected by the recent floods that would have impacted almost all the regions across the country. So, and that is large sums of money. I think about $7.7 billion there. So you take a look at what is going back into the country. And of course, you have the, how could I miss this? You have the Because We Care cash grant, which is going to $19,000 going to each child in the public school system. So parents who have two or three or one child or two or three children in the public school system are benefiting from 19,000 or 19,000 by 2, 19,000 by 3, depending on the number of kids you have in the public school system. So tremendous amount of investments are being made in the people of this country to ensure that they can ride the wave of this pandemic and be able to come out on top of it. All of these things are happening in a context where we have an economy, like I said, that is being affected by the pandemic. Many countries are struggling, are battling to stay afloat in these times as a result of the impact that they're facing with regards to the COVID-19 pandemic. Many economies are tumbling, many economies are in deficit. We are working, and we inherited an economy that I think was almost in deficit, if not in deficit. And we're working in the context of this pandemic to ensure that we fix those problems. And while all these benefits are being provided to the citizens of this country, we're still also making every effort to ensure that roads are built, to ensure that people are receiving water supply, to ensure medical supplies are in the hospitals and the health centers across this country, ensuring that electricity is provided. So, and all of this is a reflection of management, quality management, having the right strategy, having the visionaries in government. And the PPP has always been known for its policies and programs that are rooted in economics, that are designed in such a way to bring benefits to the people. They're all people-oriented policies and programs. So when you hear the naysayers rowing and making all sorts of noise, unfounded as they are, sometimes you have to respond to them. When you hear people are accusing the PPP of not providing services and support for the people of this country, you have to scoff and laugh at these people. When I was listening when the president made his announcement of the recent announcement of the 25,000 one-off grant, I was listening to Harmon, who responded immediately after with all sorts of ludicrous, unfounded, fallacious kind of accusations about why, calling the PUP a one-off grant government. Well, if the PUP is a one-off grant government, then What is the APNU AFC? Because they gave absolutely no grant to anybody while they were in office, even outside of a situation where you have a pandemic. When the economy, as they claimed, was doing well, they inherited a healthy economy. What did they give to the people? Matter of fact, they removed the Because We Care cash grant in 2016, claiming that it was fiscally unsustainable. What did they give? The teachers had to protest. And the hypocrite now with them, Coretta McDonald, was leading that protest against the APNU AFC because teachers were not even getting their uniform allowance. They were not getting any salary increases. So what did Harman and his gang give to the people of this country to accuse the PUP of being a one-off cash grant government because in the pandemic, in the context of the pandemic, grants are being given to citizens who are affected. So, and then I heard him talk about racist policies and so on, but I'll deal with those as we go along. Interestingly, Harman is asking, could you imagine? Harman is asking, you're giving cash grant, what happened to the public servants? Harman didn't hear. You haven't heard President Ali saying at his press conference on August 2nd that public servants will receive salary increase this year, and they will receive it before the end of the year, and it will be retroactive. What Harman needs to do is for the PNC to stop attempting to use Patrick Yard and the others to politicize the Public Service Union and to let the union go professionally at the table with the government with realistic proposals. All you hear from Patrick Yard and the others is that they're singing and howling in the wind without any substantive proposal to any real representation of public servants. But they're using the GPSU as a political football. So his question about whether or not, or why you are not hearing anything about financial support or salary increases for public servants is because I don't think Harman listens. Harman wakes up and just rattle whatever is on his mind. So, and every policy that we implement as a government, every single policy is a policy for the people of Guyana. It has nothing to do with their ethnicity. It has nothing to do with where they work. It has nothing to do with which political party they support. We have a policy. The People's Progressive Party, Civic, has a policy where you deal with the politics up until elections. When elections are over, we govern in the interest of all Guyanese. We begin to govern in the interest of all Guyanese. And that is what we will continue to do as much as possible. Well, we're not as much as possible. That is what we do all the time. Govern in the interest of all Guyanese. There are times when people will say, maybe you shouldn't have built this street or you should build this one. I mean, you can never satisfy every single citizen in the country. You will always have the naysayers, which we understand. And when you raise your concerns, we're going to address them. You're seeing that daily, that the ministers are around all over the place addressing the concerns of the citizens. So there is absolutely no challenge with regards to, the concerns of citizens and how we will address them. As long as those are brought to our attention, they will be addressed. So there's absolutely no difficulty in terms of people wondering and making whether or not they will benefit. The PUPC has been a government for all Guyanese and will continue to be a government for all Guyanese. But again, the naysayers and the accusations are so unfounded that you find coming from the opposition. Harman accused, again, in his statement, he's accusing the PUP of racist policies and discriminatory policies and all sorts of things. But guess what? Until now, Harman has not identified a single policy, a single program of the PUP that is discriminating against anyone and that is racist. What do you think Harman is using? Harman is using elements like Trevor Benn and elements like Keith Lowenfield and the others who were involved in criminal activities. Lowenfield and the others were trying to steal an election. And Trevor Benn was treating state lands as though he owned it while he was at the Ghana Lands and Survey Commission. And you had one man who's an Afro-Guyanese who was the director of parks and who was living overseas and enjoying a solid salary. You have one lady who knew nothing about oil and gas, but was advised on petroleum. And then you had the others like Ganesh Mahipal and the others who had 3-4 jobs. You had people like Sherrod Duncan who were stealing money from the Guyana Chronicle, and you have the Christopher Jones who has in his home packed up millions of dollars in barber shop equipment that were supposed to be benefiting young people that he had in his possession, holding on to. Those are the people who were dismissed, and many of them before the courts. And you know why? Because they were involved in criminal activities. So he's using that and calling that racist policy. That is what he's calling racist policy. The Because You Care cash grant that was rolled out, it was granted to every single parent with children in the public school system. Every single parent. And you look at the videos, look at the testimonials, look at the news stories that are coming out. The people who are talking, you're not seeing one ethnic group talking about the benefits that they get. You're seeing so many different people who are benefiting from what this country has to offer. Look at the distribution of house lots, 400 alone in Linden, and all the other locations where house lots were distributed under the People's Progressive Party Civic Administration within the 1 year. Over 6,000, by the way. Look at the people who are benefiting. Every single Guyanese of every single ethnicity. There's no discriminatory policy there. There's no policy where one ethnic group is benefiting. Look at the people who will benefit as a result from who were affected by the floods. People in every single region of this country that was affected, regardless of their ethnicity, regardless of their political support. Look at the 25,000 cash grant per household. Every single Guyanese benefited, regardless of their political affiliation or their ethnicity. Look at the one-off cash grant for pensioners and for persons who are benefiting from public assistance or the electricity subsidy. It's going to benefit every single Guyanese. When the People's Progressive Party Civic Administration removed the VAT that PNC APNU imposed on education, on water, in electricity, and the exorbitant license fees, it wasn't removed to benefit one ethnic group. It was removed to benefit every single Guyanese. So I want Harmon, I'm challenging Harmon publicly, and I'm challenging the entire opposition to show the Guyanese people the policies that are discriminatory and the policies that are racist of this government. Show us those policies. Show us those policies. But you can't. You can't. Because it is all hot air that we're getting from you. The PNC, APNU, AFC will continue to use that argument, as weak as it is, of race. That's the only argument you could find coming from that cabal, of accusing the PAP of being racist, or of accusing people of racism, when the racism resonates with them. It lives in their belly. It lives in their belly. You want to talk about discriminatory practices? You look at the 5 years of APNU in office. But their discrimination wasn't only based on race, it was based on class. Because they're now trying to portray themselves as the champions of Black people and Afro-Guyanese in this country. That is what they're trying to portray themselves as the champions for Afro-Guyanese. But ask them what they did in 5 years to the benefit of Afro-Guyanese. You ask them what have they done. There's absolutely nothing that they can point to. You know who they did for? You want me to tell you who they did for? And I'm going to show you why I'm saying that they have done nothing to benefit Afro-Guyanese in this country, to benefit any Guyanese for that matter. They have done nothing. Recently, we saw the Prime Minister and the Minister of Sport in the Buxton area, where they donated poles and lights and so on to Buxton, the community, to fix the ground. APNU AFC in 5 years did nothing for that ground. We saw people from Buxton saying that. The other day, they went and they rounded up some people from all over the place and took them to Buxton to protest, claiming that the people of Buxton are being marginalized and the people of Buxton are being discriminated against. They did nothing for that community. We are investing, the agriculture minister was recently in that area. We are investing to ensure that drainage and irrigation support are provided to the farmers in Buxton. We are ensuring that the necessary support that they need as farmers, they will get. We're going to ensure that the community roads in Buxton are fixed. The very roads that APNU, many of them that APNU neglected. We have ensured that the ground is in perfect order. Let's go to Linden. We've ensured that the Washupon Road is fixed. When we went into office, a road that they took 5 years, and Linden is their stronghold. They always win a majority in Linden, but they have failed to do anything for the people of Linden. So let's talk about discrimination. Let's talk about whose policy is against Afro-Guyanese, if you want to accuse the PPP of being against Afro-Guyanese. 400 house lots distributed in Linden. The distribution in Essequibo, the house lots in Essequibo, it benefited Afro-Guyanese and every Guyanese living in Essequibo. Every citizen that was eligible, that reached the time to get a house lot, benefited. The same thing in Berbice, the same thing at the stadium, the activities that were held at the stadium. The community roads that are being done across this country, they're not being done and there is some barrier to say Afro-Guyanese can't use them or Afro-Guyanese are not benefiting from them. Bishop Edgell, the Minister of Public Works, only a few days ago exposed the hate and racism of AP and UAFC about a road that they claimed was done by the PPP and claimed that there was discrimination against a community, an Afro-Guyanese community by the PPP, and he exposed them. So don't come to us and tell us about we're being racist and our policies when you can't point to any. We can point to policies that the AP and UAFC, racist policies. We can point to the policies where they were only concerned about an elite group of the Brian Tiwaris and the Hopkinsons and the Hardat Singh and the Lloyd Singhs, the people you could recall. You could recall the folks who benefited significantly and tremendously from them. So they can't come to us and tell us about racism. Then you have this criminal element in New York, Rickford Bork, who is accusing everybody and attacking everybody with all sorts of things. Coming out, attacking the Prime Minister of this country. Attacking the Prime Minister of this country because the Prime Minister rebuked the racism that he and Hakeem Jeffers and the others were spreading in New York. The lies and the misinformation that they were spreading. And I listened to some of the people who were talking. They were totally and completely misguided and misled by the racist Rickford Bork and the others there. So the Prime Minister made it clear that Hakeem Jeffers' statement was unfortunate. It was out of order. He's showing a clear bias, a clear racist bias, because God knows what he and Rickford Bork are involved in, because Rickford Bork is known to be in all these shady things all over the place. That is why the Attorney General, he can hardly come back to Guyana, because he may very be wanted here. So accusing and attacking the Prime Minister, could you imagine you're accusing the PPP of racism and all sorts of things, but you have the temerity, you have the gall to look at a decorated Guyanese soldier who is now the Prime Minister of this country, who has an impeccable track record. Calling him house slave, calling him house nigger, and all sorts of things because he rebuked and exposed your lies. There is this belief, and that is the problem with PNC. there is this belief that they somehow the PNC has a license, they have a transport on Afro-Guyanese. That is their belief. So you shouldn't support any other political party, right? Black people are owned by PNC. That is their belief. And that is, they talk about slavery, that is they attempting to mentally enslave Afro-Guyanese. That is what they're trying to do. So they can't come to us and tell us about racism. They are a bunch of racists. I will not spend much more time talking about the PNC racists and Rickford Burke and the others. What I want to conclude to focus briefly on the rollout of the agriculture subsidy for those subsidy for those affected by the floods. I understand that program is going to be rolled out pretty soon. And again, we will bring you the images. We will bring you the video to show that the policies and programs and everything that is implemented by this government is to benefit all Guyanese. The vaccines that we have, the testing that we allow for the COVID-19 pandemic, it's not for one group, it's for everybody, every single Guyanese. As much as they will try to spread misinformation about the program, it is for every single Guyanese. So again, I want to encourage you, the citizens of this country, not to lose sight of the development taking place. Don't get caught up and carried away and be misled by the racism and the misinformation coming from Harman and the opposition and the Rickford Burke and the others. Rickford Burke wants to gain relevance, so he wants to be in this spotlight, attacking everybody, attacking the US ambassador in the US. And I heard him on the platform say that she's going into our country. He's saying that. And he lives in the people country. He lives in a basement in the US and is trying to tell Guyanese and tell US ambassador about coming into our country. People like him abandoned this country many, many years ago. PNC was in office for 5 years. Why didn't he come back? Why didn't he come back and contribute then? He can't come here, I understand, because of I learned that he's wanted. I don't know how true it is. Maybe that's the reason why he can't come here. But don't listen to their racism. Don't listen to their misinformation. You judge for yourselves. You're seeing what is happening in this country, and I encourage you to be a part of this process of transforming and growing our Guyana. They always attack the Vice President, Dr. Jack Deal. And while Rickford Burke is claiming all sorts of things with a congressman that, maybe a lot of questions over him, Vice President is in Texas, representing Guyana and representing and, speaking and being respected for his contribution globally to climate change and other issues. So Rickford Burke and his gang and Harman and the others will continue with their misinformation. But you, the people of this country, must stay focused. Keep your eyes on the prize. The prize is the development of our country for the benefit of all Guyanese. Don't be misled. Don't get carried away with the misinformation. Stay focused. Those of you who have not yet been vaccinated, again, I want to make a passionate appeal to you to please, please, please get vaccinated. I'm vaccinated, and I know many, many people who are vaccinated, and we're fine. The vaccines will be the only thing that will take us out of the situation we're in with this pandemic. Again, I want to say thanks for being part of this program. Until next time, thanks for watching. Unfortunately, my colleague, my friend and my guest, Sanjeev Datadin, unfortunately could not have made it to the program this evening. So I want to apologize for that. I know I said earlier he's going to come, but unfortunately he couldn't make it. Again, thanks for being part of the program. We're going to be back with you soon. Until then, stay safe.